Green Room. Today we're here to talk about enrichment for our small pets, and joining me are Marie and Amelia. Hi.
Hello.
Marie is a small pets specialist and Amelia is the team leader on small pets. So could you guys start off by telling us a bit about what enrichment is, Marie?
Yeah, so enrichment is really about kind of enhancing and just really improving an environment. So whether that be for a human or obviously in this case it is for pets. So it's really just about, rather than having just a square space, you know, for them to sleep or to move around, what we really try to do is consider what they would potentially be doing, their wild cousins would be doing, but also what perhaps behaviours they need to do. So they might need to dig, they might need to jump or climb, reach up and things like that. So by providing enrichment, or another term some people tend to use is furnishing, then you are basically enabling the animal to have a happier life, to be more fulfilled, to be physically and mentally stimulated.
Excellent. That was a great answer. I was worried at the beginning. You look like really worried. Like I caught you off guard, but that was brilliant. And Amelia, why is enrichment so important to our pets, especially small pets? Because I don't think a lot of people think enrichment small pets. I think it's more commonly associated with dogs and maybe cats, but why is it important for our furry friends?
So I think for the small pets especially, if you think comparing to what they'd have in the wild, allowing them to perform those natural behaviours. So rabbits, for example, they normally have all that space in the wild to run around, whereas the way that we keep them, they need things such as digging trays, things to jump up on, just allowing them to express those natural behaviours. It also allows them to keep quite busy as well. So the times that we're at work, giving them something to do, things that take them a little bit longer.
Yeah, because I found that really fascinating when I learned a bit about small animals, that the sort of distances that things like hamsters will travel in the wild is unbelievable. Yeah. Marie, could you tell us a bit more about that? Because I don't think a lot of people realise that these sort of wild small furries can travel miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, probably one of the most interesting is your Syrian hamsters. And they can travel several miles. I believe it's between 2 and 5 miles an evening, kind of marking out their territory, assessing where their new home and nest area and things like that is going to be. In particular, it does tend to be the females who are more active and wanting to move around. And because of that, we do actually tend to get a few stray hamsters coming in. And often these stray hamsters are female Syrian hamsters. So if someone says they found one, we can pretty much guarantee we know what it's going to be. They obviously, unfortunately, will get the odd person who will, you know, dump or abandon a small pet, but hamsters can be quite good at escaping if, you know, they haven't got the most suitable cage. The cage is quite small and boring, and they can get out of the door. Then they can escape. Once they're out, then they just will keep moving. So yeah, we do probably get a couple a year that have come through and been found. Obviously, we get a few that are reclaimed, but most of the time, unfortunately, it is that they've just travelled too far and it's really hard to reconnect them with the owners. I think you can also see it with things like ferrets and even some of your mice and rats, that, you know, when you have them in a small space, you'll start to see a lot of behavioural kind of concerns where they're looping, you know, spinning, pacing up and down because they are just confined and they need to have that ability to move and to explore. So very much enrichment, you know, provides that. I think with cats and dogs, obviously, they're able to, you know, to some extent have their enrichment, be it a cat going outdoors and wandering around the neighbourhood and stuff. That's their enrichment. With a small pet, they're very reliant on their owner.
So Amelia, for hamsters, what kind of enrichment is important to them? Obviously, Marie touched on making sure their cages are big enough, is a really important one. A lot of the pet shops sell smaller cages, we often recommend bigger. Could you talk about, what in a hamster's environment sort of we could give them for enrichment?
Yeah, of course. So I think the most important thing is making sure they've got access to a wheel, because obviously Marie's spoken about the distance that they can cover in a night, and the wheel gives them that opportunity. Making sure that it's large enough, because you can get quite small wheels that are no good for hamsters' backs. So making sure it's a big wheel. Also scatter feeding them, so encouraging them to use all parts of their cage. In the wild, they'd travel quite far and they'd be roaming for food the entire time. So by spreading their food, that sort of encourages them to forage as they would in the wild. You can hide their food in different places, so in toilet roll tubes and boxes. Also spreading around their nesting material, so they have to clear it up collect it up together in order to build a nest, again, like they would in the wild.
Ah, that's really cute. So they actually like to sort of clear up all their stuff and make a nest somewhere. Oh. And what about balls? Obviously, hamster balls, a lot of people use. Marie, is that something that we recommend? I definitely used one on my hamster when I was younger. Now I feel like I'm going to regret.
Oh, and I know I did, and I remember it being covered in sellotape for the amount of times it crashed and the door came open. No, we really don't recommend using balls for hamsters. And I mean, there are larger ones that people, that shops and stuff sell for guinea pigs and ferrets and things, and we just don't recommend them. And for the old experience, very much that they're a clear ball, so especially if you've got other pets in the house, cats and dogs, which are their predator species, they haven't got the opportunity to hide if they felt threatened or worried. They can only just stop constantly, and you'll often kind of see this kind of uneasy behaviour of them just sort of, playing with their hands a little bit, or just sort of trying to lick at the sides and things because they can't escape. So whilst they may move lots and get lots of kind of exercise that way, it's quite a daunting process of being stared at constantly. The other thing is the huge opportunity for them to either crash and escape or hurt themselves as well. We've heard of them going down the stairs, coming out the front door, and the doors easily come off. So they thankfully, I think they were very popular, certainly, a good sort of 15 years ago, and we used to see every single pet coming with them. But they do seem to be, people are recognising that actually doing, careful free range time, things like that is far more suitable. If you do have one of those balls though at home, what we do when we get them donated is we literally take the lid off of one end, throw the lid away, and then you can actually just put either some string or like a little metal bottle hook and threaded it through and hook it onto the side of the cage, stuff it with bedding, and you can hang it up at a bit of height, and they make absolutely perfect little nests. So they can be reused, but we just really don't recommend them for being, that sort of, for them to just purposely be exercised in. And to be fair, exactly the same with the wheels, as Amelia said, offering larger ones, because unfortunately you still get these little tiny ones, but having really big ones that they can arch their back on, but also not giving it to them all the time. So lots of enrichment, changing it around so it's not a constant thing, because even with extra enrichment in there, they can become a little bit kind of almost addicted to it, and cause themselves more injury. So it's really important with all types of enrichment to change it round.
Excellent. What about rats? Obviously not traditionally everybody's favourite small pet, but obviously make fantastic pets, particularly for children, and I think they're sort of growing in popularity. What kind of enrichment ideas, Amelia, could we suggest to people for rats? Is it similar things to hamsters or different things that they enjoy?
Similar and different. So We on site make rat crackers, so by taking a toilet roll tube and stuffing it with their favourite treats, and then wrap it in a piece of A4 paper and scrunch up the ends, makes them work a little bit more for their food and the treats that they're having. Also, we make ropes and hammocks for them to sleep in. So rats tend to climb a lot, again allowing them to show off those natural behaviours. So with some fabric or some towels, you can cut them up, braid them and tie them into the cage so that they can walk along them, climb up them, and if you attach a big sheet of fabric to them as well, you can sort of make your own hammock for them to sleep in.
And they'll actually sleep in the hammock, will they?
Yeah, they'll curl up and sleep in there.
That sounds amazing.
Crackers and hammocks they can make themselves. There's actually a link on our Facebook and Instagram post that went out last week, how to make the rat hammock, which then can be adapted for mice, rats and ferrets.
And what about training? Do any small animals, can you train them to do tricks? Is that possible with a small animal, Marie?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, definitely. In particular, I'd say the most popular ones tend to be obviously ferrets, even chickens and rats. Obviously, rats are highly intelligent and they kind of almost ask to want to learn and to explore things. So you can certainly be doing some homemade agility at this moment. Obviously, there are lots of little agility packs and things you can buy, but equally actually just using some items around the house to come up with your own little agility course that you can teach them to do. You can certainly obviously do treat training with them, or clicker training as well to get them to do some sort of basic, obviously going up and down little ladders or seesaws, and you can also obviously do like little spins and things like that with them as well. So it's all about obviously taking your time, getting them into a little routine, so trying to do it for a few minutes each day so they get the idea of what you're trying to achieve. They are very driven by obviously something tasty, so choosing something that's healthy but a favourite treat for each species is going to be your key. I've recently been trying to convince some of my chickens to do a bit of homemade agility.
How's that going?
Well,
I thought you were going to say, well, not so good. But well.
No, interestingly, I found I've got 2 ex-caged hens left, and I mean they're about 6 or 7 now, but they were really keen. I mean, they're keen to do anything. I mean, if they could get in the car and drive with you everywhere, they would be content. So they were very good, and I managed to get them to do some weaving. They went up and down. I made a little seesaw, and we managed to get them to go across there. I think after about the 3rd time, they were like, nah. But I've got a little silky cockerel, and he was just like, no, I don't understand what you're trying to do. Can you just put the food there? And then go.
And I'll be pretty and eat the food. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just kind of looking at me like, what are you doing? So but I mean rats and even your chinchillas and degus, it's leading on probably from the whole ball discussion, you can do lots of free range time in a nice, secure and safe room in your house. So you could be doing some training and agility and little trick training and things like that quite easily in a nice, secure room, and it gives them that opportunity to come out of their cage and explore their surroundings as well.
Absolutely. So, and for those animals that it's really important to obviously have their accommodation, but to have free roaming time in the garden or whatever, like your rabbits, what kind of, I've seen lots of inventive things with tunnels for rabbits. Is that sort of enrichment for them? Is that something people can get involved in making, Amelia?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, in the wild, rabbits would live underground a lot of the time, so using tunnels for them is brilliant. People can get involved with making smaller tunnels for guinea pigs as well, and a lot of extra hides for guinea pigs as well, so that they can run between them.
And what are the small animals that like going underneath? Is it shredded paper? I've seen cages. Is it gerbils?
Gerbils.
We got there. And is it right? You can build tunnels underneath the shredded paper for them. as well?
Yeah, so the gerbils will build the tunnels themselves.
Oh,
So
right.
any cardboard boxes or tubes or anything that you put on the top of the paper, they'll drag down and sort of
That's
use to build their
amazing.
tunnels.
That's amazing. That's
You can
awesome.
also, when you're sort of setting up your gerbilarium kind of area, you can obviously regularly, when you're doing clean outs, add extra tunnels or card boxes and things for them, as Amelia said, to drag down. But when you're setting up as well, you can do a couple of put a few toilet rolls down, then a layer of shredded, then some little cardboard boxes, and then shredded, so that they, as they dig, they'll discover them and include them. And it also just adds a bit of strength to the burrows that they're creating as well. And it's so interesting watching them, obviously through the glass, because you can see this big maze of tunnels and nests and communal areas and things like that as well.
So they'll actually connect the tunnels themselves?
Yeah, pretty much.
Make it into a one big... I mean, like, untapped genius. Gerbils. That's amazing. Wow. And obviously something that people have a lot of at the minute, loo rolls. So a lot of the ideas that you guys are suggesting are things that people will have lying around the house. You know, sort of cat enrichment, dog enrichment, you often have to spend a bit of money in some areas. But for small animals, it's pretty much DIY. All the way. And what about hidey holes for small animals? You kind of touched on it, I think, Marie, but obviously you said they're a prey species, so super important. They get lots of places to hide. And I know at Wood Green we get donated all sorts of interesting stuff that you guys then use in the small animal cages. Amelia, you've probably seen all sorts. What's the strangest thing you've seen that's been donated that you've used?
Probably we had once a giant igloo, a plastic igloo that we put in a rabbit warren for them to drag stuff into and nest in. Yeah, if not, it would probably have to be there was a giant pirate ship that children had finished playing with, so the kids brought it in and donated it to be given to the mice, so they can now nest in it and explore it.
That's amazing. So just sort of old toys that you've probably got in the loft that your kids don't play with anymore. I mean, I've seen princess castles and all sorts that you can just put those in there and they can happily use them. That's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So people need to raise their lofts, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly in our rodent room we've got a good few 80s classic yellow teapots.
Oh yeah, everybody had one of those, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think there was the big giant boots that opened up as a little house, and the mice and the hamsters. We've certainly got quite a few of them, and they love those. And some of the other things you kind of think of is wooden wine racks, brilliant for rats and for dagoos and chinchillas. Well, more dagoos and rats because they can climb through them. And they make excellent ones. Again, kind of a bit of a nostalgic kind of thing that you use, the whole collapsible wooden ones that just make perfect climbing apparatus for them, and CD racks as well. I mean, obviously people don't use them anymore, but you know, we get tons of them donated through the charity shops and things, so again we can use them as ladders and stuff as well.
Brilliant. So is there anything that people can do with sort of old cardboard boxes that they've got lying around, Amelia, with any of the small pets?
Yeah, the cardboard boxes can be used. We can stuff them with hay, forage, herbs that you can grow yourself. You can also stick apple twigs into them. So especially rabbits and guinea pigs, you can make like a little mini tree with the box as the base, and they'll either pull the apple twigs out or they'll reach up and start gnawing them.
Ah, and you can grow, you said, those herbs yourself. You don't have to buy them anywhere. You can actually DIY them in your own garden.
Yeah, definitely. They're really easy to grow, and it's probably better to actually grow them yourself than buy them from the shop. Obviously, if you buy them, you need to make sure they haven't been treated with anything. So growing them yourself is really easy and probably the best way.
Brilliant. Have you guys got small pets? I mean, Marie, you said you've got chickens. Have you got anything else?
Yeah, I've only got I've got my chickens and 2 guinea pigs now. I've had many a small pet over the years, but I've just becoming a parent. I've decided young people at the moment is having that amount of animals is enough, and I'm sure we will end up having more as we go along. But I just feel that it's a sensible option at the moment is to just have some ones that I can manage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just going to say on the forage front and things like that, we just recently did a live forage session on our Facebook thread, actually, all about what you can pick and grow. So that'd be a useful one for listeners to check out, actually.
And going back to rabbits, Marie, because we haven't really talked about rabbits that much, and you talked about how to free range them safely in the garden. What about if people don't have that access to outside space to be able to free range them, or their garden's not rabbit proof? Is a run suitable for them? Is that a must for rabbits, Amelia?
Yeah, so I mean, this is probably an interesting one that certainly, obviously, we've got so many rabbits either on our site or in foster homes or waiting to come in or through our home-to-home scheme who are, in need of homes, but unfortunately lots of people tend to feel that they just want to provide a hutch for them, or that they can get these kind of enclosures from pet shops who are a lot cheaper, although unfortunately most rescues like ourselves will ask for larger and more expensive enclosures. At the time it can be really frustrating for owners because you just think, why are you asking me to spend this amount of money? But I think what we really try to stress to owners is that we're asking for such large accommodation, and in some cases it is going to be expensive to build or buy, certainly if it's from scratch. It's because rabbits can live for 10 to 12 years. So there are plenty of people who are not going to be able to free range. So enabling them to have that large space that's enclosed, a nice, large, secure run. And I mean, we ask for between 10 and sort of 12 feet in some cases, depending on the breed of a run. And we're actually finding we're homing more rabbits now to people who've converted their sheds or wooden children's Wendy house and attaching that to the run. And that just enables the rabbits to have so much more space for them to run, to dig, to reach up and to hop and obviously do those binkies when they're really excited. Sadly, we see so many rabbits with health conditions that are related to them being confined to a small hutch or a run. And these can obviously be obesity or fly strike, dental problems, all sorts of issues that are related to it. So it's really important that rabbits have that space.
Yeah, we all love seeing that thinking, don't we, Marie? It's such a... I didn't know about this before I worked at Wood Green and started learning about small pets, but...
If you're seeing your rabbits do that is a really good sign that they are really appreciating the way that you're caring for them. Obviously, I think one thing you touched on was companionship. And again, for most of the small pet species, it's extremely important that they have a companion of the same species. And with rabbits in particular, and guinea pigs, very, very important because it's how they communicate. Because they're a prey species, they can often find it really daunting being on their own, whereas when they have a companion, they've got that extra pair of ears and eyes to make them feel safe. So you'll have so many more behavioural problems with a single small pet than you would if you had a pair.
How do we know when our small pets are bored? Like that, it's quite a difficult thing to pick up on with small pets, I imagine.
I'd say, one of your biggest examples is probably with either hamsters or rabbits, where they've been housed in a small enclosure, not being given much enrichment, and they will just literally excessively chew an area. So they'll really just start to destroy the cage because there isn't anything else for them to, vent that energy and need to chew and explore on. So certainly by doing excessive chewing, you can also obviously see it, as I mentioned, with ferrets, where again, if they've got a small space, they will just continue to do either the pacing or the looping. I'll certainly see with my chickens that if some days I've chosen to keep them in their aviary, obviously occasionally they've had to go down for lockdown for bird flu threats and things like that, they cannot bear it. They will be pacing at the doors, and the moment you're out there, they want to come out because they just need to be out exploring and pecking and foraging. So it's quite obvious. Another thing you'll probably see with things like rabbits and guinea pigs where they haven't got enough enrichment or they haven't got a companion is they'll hide continuously. If they don't feel that they can safely go out and feed or move between areas, they will just choose to kind of huddle up and hide until they feel that it's really quiet and there's less chance of predators. So as Amelia said, by offering guinea pigs some tunnels and hives, they like to move from one to the other. So always with these species, offer at least 4 or 5 different hides and tunnels. Same with rabbits in the wild. With their warren, they'll always have at least between 3 and 6 exits out of the warren that they all live into, so that they know that wherever they chose to be moving around, that they could escape a predator if they wanted to. So again, whereas if they don't have that available, you'll find that they will just remain in one place because they are quite frightened.
Yeah, I guess people, if they didn't know any better, would just see them hiding and think, oh, they're just sleepy today, or
yeah,
they're just a bit scared of something that spooked them in the garden. But actually, we kind of need to recognise those signs and look out for them a bit more, don't we? And Amelia, how do we know when they're happy? We talked about rabbits thinking, which is something I never knew before I worked at Wood Green. What about our other small pets? Are there other ways that they can show us that they're really content with their environment?
Yeah, of course. So guinea pigs popcorn. Yeah, I'm assuming that it's coming from popcorn popping, because they literally jump up and all 4 feet come off the ground. So kind of similar to binking, I guess, but it's really, really sweet. They make high-pitched noises when they do it as well normally, so it sounds like they're chattering. And then I guess with dagoos and chinchillas, well, dagoos more so, they make a little chattering noise as well, so similar to guinea pigs.
Oh, lovely. So if we look out again for those signs, we can see signs that they are content and happy and we're doing the right thing and giving them plenty of enrichment.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Marie and Amelia. It's been a real pleasure, very informative, and hopefully some of our listeners have got some great ideas about how to introduce enrichment to their small pets. Obviously, if people have any questions or queries or concerns about their small pets, you guys are still working. Amelia, you look like you're at Wood Green.
Yeah, I'm on site today.
You're on site. So we have still got people on site in small animals. And Marie, you look like you're working from home.
I am working from home, but yeah, also obviously visiting our website, keeping an eye on our social channels as well, because at the moment we're just putting a huge amount of content out there suitable for all small pet owners, to give them ideas on suitable sizing accommodation, enrichment making, foraging. Everything they need to know is available on our channels now for them to download.
Great, and some great ideas for kids to get involved.
Yes.
Because obviously we're all a bit bored at the minute. We could all use something to do. So yeah, go on our Facebook, go on our website. But any questions or concerns about your small pets, feel free to email or call us. But there is loads of information out there. Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys have any comments about what we've talked about today, or questions today, or any other podcast we've done, please do email in and we'll read them out and do our best to answer them. The email address is podcast@woodgreen.org.uk. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck. Bye bye.